toss around some of those stories with our A-team. Tonight, I am pleased to be joined by Republican pollster and campaign strategist Kellyanne Conway, executive editor of the Weekly Standard and a Fox News contributor Fred Barnes, and former member of George W. Bush's senior staff and Georgetown University professor Brad Blakeman. Brad, to you first. Impeaching Obama, what do you think, especially if Congress takes a majority in the midterm?
Maybe Democrats know something we don't. But this is scare tactics on the part of the Democrats. And isn't it sad that they can't attract their voters, they can't attract donors by telling the accomplishments and how proud they are of the Obama administration, that they have to create this boogeyman that somehow the Republicans, if they're in power, will impeach Obama. They have nothing positive to say, so they're going negative with their own people. It's really tragic.
Kellyanne, you're shaking your head.
Oh, Brad put it perfectly. That's exactly right. And the fact that they can only raise money based on a negative and based on really frightening people that Obama would be impeached, really all they've got left is the silly concocted war on women, which hit a wall in 2013 in New Jersey and here in New York. And also, they've got this idea that the vast right-wing conspiracy never wanted to legitimize Barack Obama. What they need to do is stop trying to blame other people and realize that ObamaCare is named ObamaCare because the guy who gave it to us is named Obama. So he and he alone should be responsible for this. That will be the governing issue through 2014. All
right, we'll delve into ObamaCare in just a moment. I want to get Fred's take because it's interesting. You know, there's so much talk about the midterm election and whether we will see a shift in the balance of power in Congress. So what does this email from the DNC say to you, Fred?
Well, as you pointed out, it's a fundraising email, and they are desperate, and this is what they have to use. You know, Democrats remember 1998 when Bill Clinton was impeached, and Bill Clinton avoided it very easily, and it backfired on Republicans who didn't do well in that midterm election of 1998. Well, Bill Clinton was still popular. He had a high approval rating, and Obama has neither of those. So Democrats better be careful when they're raising this impeachment issue.
All right. So, Kellyanne, how will Obamacare, which actually goes into effect this week, affect 2014?
It will be the governing issue. I hope the Republicans don't think that they could be a one-note Johnny party. They still have to run on growth. They still should have positive ideas, as they do on many different issues. And if they're out there trying to repeal Obama, they're going to have to talk about free market, patient-centric ways to replace Obamacare. That said, what's happening, Lori, is many Americans who like the idea of health reform for other people are starting to realize there's a literal and figurative cost to them. They could have their plans canceled. They may be paying or will pay higher premiums. They may not be able to keep their doctor. And it's not just if it happens to you. If it happens to people whom you love and who are in your circle of friends or colleagues or family members, then you're a surrogate voter and thinker for them as well. Okay. So you've got the direct victims of Obamacare, and then you've got sort of the concentric circles around those folks.
I want to bounce this one off of Brad Blakeman, the Democratic Congresswoman Eleanor Holmes Norton from D.C., saying today that Obamacare signups are low because millions think the GOP repealed the law. That's absurd.
It is worse than absurd. This is another example of a lawmaker who just doesn't get it. She's the responsible for the public having the distrust and not having the information on Obamacare because it changes every day. And the fact is that she's blaming the American people for her own mistake. It is unconscionable. And by the way, she's up for re-election.
But of course. All right, Fred, weigh in on Obamacare, 2014, sign-up numbers, all this good stuff that we've been hemming and hawing about for months now.
I mean, the White House was talking about the sign-ups, and they had $1 million that was done by the federal government, way below what they had expected. Chances are, at least the insurance industry thinks so, that there will have been more cancellations of health insurance policies than there have been enrollments into Obamacare. That's going to be a big embarrassment. And then we head into next year where people are going to find out their premiums are higher. They're not going to be able to choose doctors or hospitals. They're going to find that Obamacare is applied unevenly, that many people are going to still be able to buy these inexpensive catastrophic policies, but they won't be able to get it. It's going to be a mess. There are going to be many, many flashpoints.
What about my earlier guest, Fred, who suggested the 62% of Americans who will be subsidized, receive subsidies from the plan might entice them to enroll?
Well, it hasn't so far.
That's a good point.
As best we know. And look, a lot more people are going to sign up, but most people get their insurance through their employer. And what's going to happen to a lot of them, their employer's going to say, hey, I can save money. I can just dump these people on these federal exchanges. And I tell you, there's private health insurance and private health care, and then there's government insurance and health care, and it's not going to be the same.
That was a great follow-up question. I wish I had thought of it. Thanks, Fred. Moving on to Benghazi, Kellyanne, and this New York Times piece that everybody, it seemed, from both parties, debunking, saying it's rubbish. What do you think? Al-Qaeda had no role in the Benghazi attacks.
Well, I can't believe it made it through multiple editors and that they can say it with a straight face after the revelations of almost everything that the administration said early after the attacks on 9/11 of a year ago, Lori, have been disproved, including that it was because of some tape or some, all of the video. I mean, all of that has been disproven. I think it's the yoke around Hillary Clinton's neck to this moment as former Secretary of State. And I think it's beyond the pale, even for the New York Times, which has a point of view. I feel like, the old saying that foreign policy stops, politics stops at the water's edge. When you talk about foreign policy and national security, we should have honest journalism. I mean, the idea that Al-Qaeda is not involved in that, you've got people left, right, and center taking issue with that.
Yeah, it's insane, Brad, right? It's like the article's splitting hairs over which branch of Al-Qaeda. It wasn't the standard Al-Qaeda, it was an offshoot of Al-Qaeda. What was your take on the article and the fallout in the days since?
Well, the New York Times is at odds with its own reporting. If you go back to a year and a half ago, the fact is that the New York Times is trying to tell the American people the sky is red when we know it's blue. The American people have already made up their mind by the evidence that's been produced and the evidence that has not been produced, which is also very troubling to this investigation. Witnesses weren't interviewed. The FBI was late getting in there. We haven't even caught the people who are responsible. So the New York Times is trying to help Hillary Clinton. It's no wonder they're doing as bad as they are when they have this yellow journalism.
Interesting take. What a fantastic roundtable. Thank you so much, Kellyanne, Conway, Fred Barnes, and Brad Blakeman.